Hey guys, Jason here. So I've gotten a lot of questions lately in regards to what tuning I use. So I figured I'd make a video and tell you the 5 reasons why I don't drop tune or down tune any of my guitars. Alright guys, before we get started here, make sure you subscribe to my channel and then ding the little bell so you get the updates every time I release a metal guitar video. The first reason I don't down tune or drop tune any of my guitars is because the lower you tune down, you're more prone to having a muddy sound. And I'm not saying you can't drop tune or down tune, I know a lot of you do, and I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but just know the lower you go on your notes, you're gonna lose some of that tightness. You're gonna lose that, pronunciation of each and every note. And if you riff a lot, just know that as you tune down lower, you're gonna be more prone to that muddy sound. It's not gonna sound quite as tight. Now, reason number 2 is very dear to my heart. No, dudes, not that number 2. Anyway, guys, so number 2 reason why I don't down tune or drop tune, and that's because when you tune to a lower key, a lower note, you're gonna have a tendency to only play those super low notes all the time. And guess what that's gonna do? It's gonna get freaking boring because that's all you're ever gonna play. And you guys have heard the bands out there. There's some metal bands that they'll just hang on those heavy notes. It's like, oh my god, where's my pillow? I need to take a nap because this is freaking putting me to sleep. And again, that's why I teach you guys to riff. I teach you guys to move those fingers around because I want you to get better. I want you to progress. And just playing the heaviest notes possible, I'm sorry, you're not going to progress as a guitar player. You're just going to play heavy power chords and palm mute. And the other problem with that is all your songs have a tendency to be in that same key. And that's another thing I teach you guys too, is don't play every single song in the same key. Us metal players have a tendency, we're always going to start our song and end it on that heaviest note. No, move around a little bit more. Maybe start something in like F sharp minor or A or D or whatever. Just play around with that and have some diversity in your metal guitar playing. Reason number 3 why I don't down tune or drop tune any of my guitars is because when you do that, well, guess what? Your bass player has to do that too. Now, remember, number 1 reason we talked about how you go to those lower notes, how when you down tune that your sound has a tendency to become muddy and not as tight. Well, guess what that's going to do to your bass guitar? Again, I know people do it and I know you can, but when you drop tune or down tune, especially on a bass guitar, you're gonna lose some of that tightness. And guys, you don't want your bass to sound like no, you want your bass guitar notes to be pronounced and tight. Just like we talked about with your regular guitars. You want everything to be tight and you want to be able to hear those notes and distinguish what's being played, every single note. Now, here's the remedy with bass guitar and keeping standard tuning on any other guitar. Just get a 5-string bass. You're gonna have plenty of low notes with a 5-string bass, and that's one of the reasons why I got this bass. And I don't know if you guys caught my review. This is one of my ESP basses here, the LTD D5. I'll put a little box up there so you can read about it. But yeah, I opt for a 5-string bass, and then that way when I'm playing just standard tuning on my 6-string or my 7-string, I can hit the low bass notes on this B string, and that's gonna fill in those spaces, and it's just gonna make everything sound heavier, like what we want it to sound like, but then you're still gonna have those pronounced notes and that tightness. The 4th reason why I don't down tune or drop tune is a real simple reason. Instead of down tuning and drop tuning my 6-string guitar, I just got a 7-string guitar. that was one of the things that I struggled with for a while, because I even thought about drop tuning or down tuning. I don't think I would have drop tuned. I think I would have just down tuned the entire thing, you know, to like a D or E flat or whatever. But I struggle with that. Like, you know, I do want a heavier sound, but again, I want that tightness in my notes because I riff a lot, and which I want you guys to riff a lot as well. But I decided instead of down tuning or drop tuning, I'm like, well, why don't I just get a 7-string guitar? I'm gonna have plenty of low notes on that. And I finally picked this up. Now, I know some people will drop tune or down tune their 7-string guitars. That's not for me at all. That's just asking for like a muddy sounding disaster. Again, I know people do it, I know bands do it, but when you start playing riffs, when you're playing any kind of rhythms that require a lot of movement, you're gonna lose that tightness and that punchiness of your guitar, especially when you're playing those lower notes. So 7-string, and don't drop tune or down tune your 7-string. There's just no reason for it. Reason number 5 why I don't down tune or drop tune any of my guitars, and this is just me being like 100% transparent. I'm just too lazy to do it, guys. It seemed like a lot of work to go in and, like, you know, change everything, especially when you have like a Floyd or any kind of floating tremolo. Just seemed like a big pain to have to go in and do that. It's like, okay, well, I want to tune down to an E flat or a D or C sharp minor or whatever. Oh, I don't like that, so I need to change it again. Well, you got to go through the whole spiel again. Seriously, guys, I'm way too lazy for that. So that was really part of my reason for getting a 7-string as well. It's like, I don't really want to mess with that. And I'm kind of weird like that. If I did that to one of my guitars, I would probably end up doing it to all my guitars, and it's just not something I want to mess with. So yeah, I'm just really too lazy to down tune or drop tune, and that's the real reason, along with the other 4 reasons I just gave you. Now here's a point I want to bring up, and this is a little hard to wrap your head around at first, at least it was for me. Lower notes do not automatically equate to a heavier sound. And again, that's a little hard to wrap our heads around, because that's why we tune down or get 7-string guitars or drop tune or whatever, because we think those lower notes are going to make us sound heavier. But understand this, the heavy tone, that comes from a combination of other factors. One being how you play. It's going to be your style. It's really in your hands. A lot of your tone comes from how you play. It's also going to come from your drummer. If your drummer is just playing the well, your song's not going to sound very heavy. You could be playing the heaviest song in the world, but if the drums aren't there with it, you know, it's just not going to be heavy. Whereas if he's playing like, or she, if they're playing like a mean double bass line through there, it doesn't matter what your guitar's tuned to, you're going to have that heavy sound. Another component is your bass guitar. We talked about that earlier. To be the other guitar player, if you got 2 guitar players, the feel of the whole song. So there's many other factors. It's not just the lower notes. In fact, you can play a song in like A, and if you've got those other factors, the bass, the drums, the feel of the song, all that stuff, it's going to sound heavy, and it's not really going to matter what key it's in or what you're tuned to. Again, you're going for that feel, you're going for that heavy sound, not necessarily lower notes. Now, will I ever drop tune or down tune my guitars? Probably not. It's highly unlikely, but I can't say I'm never, ever going to do that, because I don't know. And you know, there are plenty of bands out there that drop tune, and there are a few of those bands that riff, and they sound phenomenal. Bands like Arch Enemy and Amon Amarth, you know, they play a lot of riffs, and they're super tight. Their notes are always pronounced. So, okay, well, you can do that. But I guess the point of this video is I don't want us as metal musicians to become so obsessed with playing that lowest and heaviest note you possibly can play. Rather, let's just focus on our craft and getting better at playing and at riffing and doing those things. And if you decide you want to down tune or drop tune, you know what, that's fine, but just make sure you continue riffing and don't get caught up into that trap to where you're just playing the same boring stuff over again because you feel like every song has to be in that lowest key. So do you drop tune or down tune? If so, let me know in the comments below, and let me know what key you're playing in as well. And if you use standard tuning, hey, I'd like to know that too. It seems like we're losing all the standard tuning guitar players out there. But, you know, I'd love to know what you guys do, and we can chat about that. So guys, thank you for all your support on my videos here, and until the next video, as always, keep it metal.